Today we're going to go down to Traction Products and see Chris Weismann and see how they're coming along with John Morgan's clutch. I bounce around between projects, and right now I'm bouncing between John Morgan's bike and the Ninja ZX14 Turbo Funnybike. So I'm going to strap her up and we're going to drive down to Costa Mesa and see Chris. You ready for that? Here we are at Traction Products in Costa Mesa. Stopped down to see, like I say, we're here to see Chris and how he's doing with John's clutch. A little bit of history for everybody. I first came across Traction Products back in 1994 when I was working on the ZX11 Funnybike. I needed to have a transmission made, and I looked around. I didn't particularly care for the manufacturers that were currently out there, plus I couldn't get any interest in doing it. So I came down, I talked to Pete Weismann, Chris's dad, and he was able to say, yeah, we'll do that. And as a result, he put Chris on the ZX11 project, and it actually was the first transmission that Chris had ever built completely from the ground up on his own. And to this day, I still have parts of that transmission in my motorcycle, in the ZX11, which has, you know, been to the track many times, won multiple championships, set lots of records. So we all know what the history and how the quality of the Weismann parts are. So we're really proud of that, being able to use it and be able to bring Traction Products into the industry. You know, it's obvious, you know, with the use that everybody else has had through the multiple bikes that have ran the Weismann 3-speeds and the 4-speeds. So it's been a really good thing for the industry, and it's actually, I think that having these guys involved with the sport has actually made the competitors step up their game to be able to have a product that is along the same lines or as good or half as good as what Chris does. And that being the case, it's been a win for everybody in the industry and in the sport. So I'm pretty proud of the fact that we were able to have, you know, a foot in how this actually works out. So let's go get a look-see and say hi to Chris.
Come on, Steve. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So we came down to see how you're doing with John Morgan's clutch.
John Morgan's clutch.
John Morgan's clutch and the rest of the parts that we've got going on.
All right, well, okay, follow me this way. Machine in the hat right now. Basically this, always something new, you know?
This is Pat Weismann, that everybody at one point or the other might have had a chance to talk to. Are you ring or are you pinion?
Pinion.
Pinion. Chris's ring.
Right. So Christopher Crown Wheel or ring.
And this is the clutch that we just took out of it that you designed that seemed to work pretty good, but now we're going to step it up a little bit more, the RPM up to a more usable range, and still have sufficient lockup to be able to keep it so that everything hooks up and they can get it rolling.
Yeah, adding that bearing support down the middle really helped. You know, take all that vibration out that there was there before, but you know, there's still some left, and you can see some of the fingers are not happy, so we're going to try to take care of that. This one was called WTF, what the or Weismann Top Funny. That's the other name. And this is the one that we did with Bill for John. And so basically you can see where the 4-cylinder engine was, right? And then we had the drive coming off the crank coming here. So the gear set was here for the primary. And then coming back into the clutch here, which was a big empty box when I did this drawing here with Bill, because he wouldn't let me look at the clutch. And and then the 3-speed sits over here, and then we had the output to the sprocket over here to the rear tires. And this is the clutch damper that we're working on right now. That's going to go into the pinion there, and then this is the end view of the clutch with all the fingers. For a second, but when we got this clutch going on from Bill, we basically had these plates in here, and we had this housing that he had, and he had this bearing support on this end that he wanted, and I pretty much drew what he wanted to have, but this whole clutch was cantilevered, and it was shaking pretty bad. So they had this piston, or he had this piston housing sitting on this end here to disengage the clutch fingers, and we retained that, and then we slid this steel collar down the inside and added this bearing on the inside of the clutch, and basically supported the clutch right at the end of it with a bearing arrangement all tagged into the front of the gearbox housing over here. Right. We could see that there was more to be gained, right. And we needed a little bit more clutch in there, so we've gone back now and changed more, getting rid of the rest of the stuff that was kind of in there. Last piece of the puzzle, we're working on it.
We're here at Traction Products with Chris, and we've had a chance to look at his clutch, and I know that a lot of racers out there have heard the name Weismann. They've had a chance to talk to Chris on the phone. They've talked to Pat. We all know about the fine quality of the parts, but we don't know very much of the history. So let's get a look around and see what we can see that Chris has to show us here at Traction Products, and maybe get the 5-cent tour of what he has going on.
Yeah, this is our office. Pat and I have been designing in here for about 20 years now. It was my dad's office, and this is where he basically trained us to do what we do. And we have a long-standing history in racing, and a lot of it's on our walls around here. And so over here on the wall we have a nose piece from a very famous crash. Back in 1988, we basically did this McLaren car, the MP44, and Senna in his first year at McLaren pretty much embarrassed Prost. So the next year, coming into the second to the last race, Prost was leading the championship, and Senna had to win the last 2 races to win the championship. And with about 6 laps to go, Senna went for a pass into a chicane, and Prost turned in early and crashed them both off the track. And Prost got out thinking he was champion, and Senna stayed in the car, and he was able to get the car restarted and went through the runoff and did a full lap around the track without a front nose, or at least a front wing, and shot back into pits, and Pat was in the pits and got the nose cone and brought it home.
And this picture here, what was the story on this one?
That's pretty much when Pat and I really started working in the shop, and Pat's on the left and I'm on the right, and we're pretty much like 5 or 6 years old, and we are holding parts that went into that Indy transaxle. My dad's behind us. We're standing in front of the old wash tank that we still use in the shop out there.
So it's safe to say that you guys grew up here and this is all you really know. I had an English teacher once that told us when I was in high school, he didn't tell us we were in high school, but I was in high school. He told us that if you grow up in a watch factory, like it or not, you're going to know how to build a watch. We got Keith Lynn, we got Travis Davis, we got a championship from Keith Lynn, we've got even got a pro stocker up there, if you can believe that.
Don't think go fast. Period.
So Pat, what are you doing?
I am working on a part, a 3D model of a differential.
Traction Products is a company that's actually, owned and operated here in, it's located in Costa Mesa now. Where did you initially start at?
My dad's company was in Des Plaines, Illinois first for about 5 years, working with his dad, I'm sorry. And then he moved out here in '71.
And an interesting fact about Michelle, Chris's mom, she was the first female timekeeper to actually be in Formula One, because up to that point it was considered to be bad luck that a woman shouldn't be in the pits. But Michelle Weismann broke the mold and said, "Hey, the heck with all you guys, I'm going to come in and do it." So Chris's granddad, Chris's dad, now Chris, so we're going on 3 generations, and there's kids even coming up yet, so we're going to see 4 generations of Weismanns that are all, into the sport, into motorsports, and going to be delivering really great products. Well, let's get a real quick walk around and see what else you might have going on, Chris. Forever. Here she is in the Monaco Grand Prix in 1965. So it's really quite a long history. And who's this that she's standing?
Dan Gurney.
Dan Gurney. And this is Michelle and Pete Weismann back in 1986. Looked like a happy couple at the racetrack, don't it?
These are the four CNC mills. It's kind of, normal to see CNC mills, but actually we were the first company in racing to have CNC machines. I got to take a picture of Vince Pesta.
Yeah, and there's Vince.
Vince is using the Hayabusa transmission that we made a few years back, which is an evolution of the stuff that we did. He used the same dog rings, for example, that we did on the Kawasaki 3-speed. All through here we have all sorts of machines to cut splines or cut gears. We can shape, we can hob, we can shave, and pretty much any gear that we want to make, we can do.
So what does this machine do, Chris?
So we can put a 100-foot axle right in here. We can run it right through the shop and put a spline right on the very end of it. It's got a hole that goes right through. This is a smaller version of that. We can do really teeny splines.
And he's the man with the lathe. You couldn't do anything without him.
Right, he's the cornerstone of the shop. 90% of the parts that we make have to come out of the turning section first. All gears, all shafts, all get turned first.
Do you have any other motorcycle parts we can look at besides the ones for John?
I believe I do. This is a new input shaft that I'm making for the GS3 3-speeds that I've been making for years. The difference is I've increased the first gear to extremely fat tooth, and this is for drag trike, where they've got big huge paddle tires and a tremendous amount of shock loads coming off of those paddles back there, and so this is part of the new transmission 4-speed that we made for James Daugherty's 2-liter engine. Basically this is a second and fourth gear cluster that sits on the input shaft. So the input shaft basically comes through here, so first and third are on the shaft, goes in through here and drives actually through this end spline. So that's part of that design. Which is quite a difference in size compared to that.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Part of the 2-speed, or 3-speed cluster of John's bike, third gear and second gear there. But that's a Suzuki product. And then here, kind of a comparison, is the 4-speed that we're doing for James's bike, or I'm sorry, James's engine. So this is the output shaft. So you can see the difference in size in the spline. So we're never going to have a problem twisting any of this stuff. And that's all hollow, so it's really a butch part. It's not going to bend or anything.
Well, it's when you stop and you actually look back at everything that's going on and everything that you guys have done, it's really quite impressive to be able to see what the long winding lineage is of what Traction Products has been able to accomplish over the years, from Formula One to Indy cars to offshore to what we do at the drag bikes. Virtually anything with wheels and competes, the winners have always ran Traction Products products. Would you say?
Yeah, that's a good statement there. Yeah, for sure. Everything that my dad touched, won, and it's kind of it's a double-edged sword, because when you're successful, then people are quick to push you out or copy your stuff, and so it's always been a struggle to stay ahead and come up with the next widget, to beat everybody again. And but fortunately, our dad taught us how to think outside the box and never be satisfied with what we've done. There's always more to be gained.
Great. Well, Chris, I really appreciate the time that you've been able to give us.
Thank you.
To be able to look and see.
Thanks for coming down. Yeah.
So that's our trip down to Traction Products in Costa Mesa. I hope you enjoyed it. I give you a little bit of an insight on what goes on and how the gears are built, what they look like, and some information about the company. So that's about it. See you next time.